Hey y'all, welcome in another Thursday. My name is Jeff NOWAK, WWL digital sports producer, coming at you. Coming at you live ahead of the Week 13 matchup between the Saints and the Cowboys at the Caesars Superdome. It is Thursday night football, back-to-back Thursday games. Not something that happens very often. You have to play on Thanksgiving typically for that to happen, and that's what's going on this year for both teams. Both teams are coming off a Thursday game last week, Thursday game this week, and I think that gives you an advantage if you're the Cowboys, knowing you do this basically every year. But it's going to be interesting. Again, this is the Bud Light ingredients for Saints success pregame live chat. We'll be hearing from Deuce McAllister shortly. Usually comes in about 5:15, so he can chime in from the dome and give us his insight into what the Saints need to do today. I'm gonna ride. You can ride with me until then. My name is Jeff NOWAK again. Follow me on Twitter at Jeff_NOWAK, and we're just going to talk about some of the key factors going into this game. The most obvious one being the same thing that's plagued the Saints all year long, and that is injuries. Injuries. Even Taysom Hill, who is getting the start today, per reports, that has not been officially confirmed, but he's getting the start per reports, is Taysom Hill, and he's hurt. He's not healthy. He's healthy enough to play, and that's the important thing for him. But man, you wish that we're going into this, and you just want to see Taysom Hill get a shot at the job without any caveats of, oh well, if only he could have run better, and that's my worry about today is we're not seeing Taysom Hill, the quarterback. We're seeing a shadow of Taysom Hill who can only stand in the pocket and be, that type of quarterback, the average at best pocket passer who cannot move around and do the things he needs to do to be a true weapon. So hopefully that's not the case. He's dealing with a plantar fascia injury. The last 2 weeks, he has been active as the backup. He was not really an option to go in the game unless they were desperate, right? Unless they just needed an emergency replacement for Trevor Siemian, who got hurt. That was the only scenario he was getting in the game because that foot injury was so limiting. It occurred in week 10 against the Titans. He said he just caught a pass, went to explode off that foot, and it just popped on him. And that'll happen with these kind of weird foot injuries. They're usually kind of tension based and not impact based, and that's what you have. And it's going to be a question mark of whether Taysom can be Taysom Hill. And I say that because he said that, right? I'm going to cue up Taysom's comments from earlier this week. And you tell me whether he sounds like a guy who is confident that foot injury is not going to be a factor. I'll drop it in here. And here's what Taysom had to say.
I think I'm feeling a lot better. I've learned a lot about this injury over the last little bit, and I had a partial, which after learning about it, I think they said you'd rather have a full tear. So I think that's been what we've been working through in terms of pain management and tolerance. And so that's been the challenge. And I think we're just getting to a point where I'm going to be dealing with pain, and it's just getting to the point where it doesn't limit, functionality. You just kind of you go through practice one day, you see how you feel, and then you see how you feel in the morning. And obviously, I think it's just like anything else. The more you do on it, the more sore you'll be in the morning. But I would say the last couple of days, I've felt pretty good. Yeah, look, I've had several conversations with Sean. I've had several conversations with Drew about the injury. They both shared with me things that they did that helped them, and I've been doing those things. We got a great training room, and so it's just staying on top of it, doing everything we can to speed up the process of having that tissue scar back to the bone. And but again, I think the last couple of days they've been really encouraging for me.
Do you feel as functional as before?
I hope so. I think that's kind of the question mark, where the last 3 weeks really have been so unique for us in terms of going Sunday to Thursday and then another Thursday, to where we've been trying to limit reps and time on the field, time on your feet, all that stuff. And so it's hard to simulate a game and practice, and again, especially the last 3 weeks. So I think so, but I really don't know, because it's hard to simulate what that's going to be like.
And there you go. Yeah. So that last question, do you feel like you'll be as functional with that injury as you were without it? And his answer was, that's the big question mark. So he doesn't even know. He's not sure whether he's going to be 100% on that ankle or on that foot. And, how much it's going to be an impact. It's going to be an impact. It's going to hurt. And he knows it. And that's got to be a frustrating situation. The question is, can he play through it? He's a tough guy. I think he will. Hopefully it doesn't limit him too much. And that's kind of where the Saints are. I don't think this was ever really a question of, okay, do we want to start Trevor Siemian or do we want to start Taysom Hill? Maybe in week 10. And I still feel like Taysom was coming out of the concussion protocol and you wanted to get him back on the field and make sure he could get through an entire game before you threw him at quarterback. Then he got injured. So week 11, week 12, he wasn't really an option. So it wasn't a question of, do you want to start Trevor Siemian? He's the only guy, unless you want to throw rookie Ian Book out there, and that just doesn't make a ton of sense at this point in the season. So this is Taysom's shot. This is them saying Taysom is healthy enough to give it a real go. And they've ridden as long as they could, kind of coasting on the rims of this offense. You got to open it up. You got to let him sling the ball. If he throws a couple interceptions, if he turns the ball over, hopefully it's downfield, right? Like that's what I want to see more of, is the Saints opening it up a little bit, especially on the edges. I want to see them get little Jordan Humphrey guys, big guys involved on some jump balls at the edges of the field, where if you turn the ball over, it's basically a punt, right? That's what you want to see. You don't want to see the pick six, the badly underthrown interception in your own territory. That's what loses you games. You're not losing a game because of for example, the interception Taysom Hill threw earlier in the season when he came in. I want to say it was against the Giants. It was, that didn't cost them that game because of the circumstances surrounding it, right? If you're looking at first and long, first and 10, 15, first and 20, and you're just taking a shot down the field to see if something good will happen. Sorry, I think my connection is a little slow. So if I'm cutting out, my bad. But I'm going to keep talking. That's where you want to be. You want to be able to try to take advantage of those situations. And, if you turn the ball over, you'll survive it. But you got to find a way to manufacture offense. You're not going to have Alvin Kamara again. You're not going to have Teron Armstead. You're not going to have Ryan Ramczyk. It's going to be a lot of questions as to how effective this offense can move the ball against Dallas, a Dallas team that can score with the best of them. And that's what you really need to figure out, is how do you generate points? 6 points. Not going to win any games. This isn't LSU in the 80s. That's just where it's going to be. All right. Let me flash up the injury report here. There you go. So you can see the Saints injury report. It's not quite as extensive as it has been in other weeks in terms of the guys missing the game, but it is still pretty extensive. You had three players who declared out on Wednesday, which is linebacker Caden Ellis with a hamstring injury, defensive ends Tano Passanio and Marcus Davenport, one with an ankle, one with shoulder. The three players that were tagged questionable, there was a report this morning that all three will miss the game. So that's Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle, Teron Armstead, your left tackle, Alvin Kamara, your starting running back. The good news is Mark Ingram will be back. He missed last week, but he'll be back out there. Him and Tony Jones are probably going to kind of lead the charge in the, if you will, in the backfield. And you just have to see if they can do enough. I mean, if you think about the protection that you're going to be giving Taysom Hill in this start, in this great opportunity for Taysom Hill, you don't have your starting left tackle, your starting right tackle, your starting left guard. I'm sorry, your starting right guard in Andrews Pete, who's on IR. The only starting offensive linemen you have out there are Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. I'm a fan of James Hurst. I'm a fan of all these guys. I'm a fan of saying the name Calvin Throckmorton. But geez. I'm a fan of Mark Ingram. I don't think he's going to have any big holes to run through. I mean, it's just, it's wild. And the only good thing that you can say is, with Taysom in there, you're at least able to slow down the rush. You're able to do some things behind the line of scrimmage to slow them down, to slow the Cowboys pass rush down. It looks like they're going to have DeMarcus Lawrence tonight. I don't know how effective he'll be. Mark Cooper is going to play. You can see the Cowboys injury report here. Ezekiel Elliott is an interesting question mark because the Cowboys said earlier in the week that there was a report earlier in the week that the Cowboys were looking to rest Ezekiel Elliott because he's dealing with a knee issue. It's sore. He could probably play through it, but they want to rest him and make sure he's available and effective down the stretch. It's a weird bit of information to come out the way it did, and I'm going to tell you why. Throughout a season, you expect players to miss games with whatever. And it's really just a rest thing. It's really, they needed the week off. They just need to get healthy and kind of clean up a few just nagging things. And a week off is enough to do that. And so they end up on the injury report with a back injury, something, kind of non-specific. And they have a week off and they probably needed it, but everyone needs a week off and they don't always get it, right? In this case, it's strange to see a team project through the media that they're thinking about sitting their star running back. Whether it came from an agent or the team, one way or another, someone's trying to, send a smoke signal up there, I think. And what that indicates to me is the Cowboys want to sit him down. Zeke doesn't want to sit down. Zeke wants to play. It's been a weird back and forth. He's been in practice all week, as you saw on the injury report. Who knows how much action he's going to get. But I think the Cowboys are very, very willing to limit his reps and hand the ball to Tony Pollard. I can never remember which way he says his name, but I do know he's a very good running back. He had a kick return touchdown last week. I mean, he ran all over the Raiders. The Raiders won that game in overtime. It was a kind of weird game. A lot of penalties. But yeah, I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get there. I think you're going to see a lot of Tony Pollard. You're going to see maybe some Zeke early on. If this game gets out of hand, you're not going to see Zeke. If the Cowboys get out to a lead, I think you're not going to see Zeke. But, that's a good thing for the Saints, but they still have to stop Tony Pollard. And I'm not sure they can with the pass rushers they're missing. They're going to have Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, some type of combination in the middle. And you're going to lose a lot without Marcus Davenport in there. You're going to lose a lot of the pressure on Dak Prescott. That not even the sacks. I'm not even talking about the sacks. You want to just put a cage rush around him and make him stand in the pocket and deliver the ball. He's not a huge guy. If you just make him stand there, he's not the greatest passer. He's not the most accurate passer. If you allow him to kind of, similar to what the Saints saw with Jalen Hurts, if you allow him to extend the play, get outside the pocket, the closer he is to the sideline when he's throwing the ball, assuming he's targeting a receiver, the more in danger the Saints are. Because he's the type of guy who can get all the way to the edge of the field and then find CeeDee Lamb, whoever, Amari Cooper, assuming he's out there. Like that's what you want to avoid. Is a different type of quarterback than you see with Taysom Hill. Taysom's not doing that. Taysom, if he gets outside the pocket, he's running. And that makes it a little easier to defend. And that's been my biggest gripe about Taysom Hill is he kind of treats his game as if he's either a quarterback or he's a runner. He's never a running quarterback. He's never just extending the play and using his athleticism to create angles to throw the ball. You talk about a wide receiver core that can't get open, that can't create separation. Well, a couple extra seconds will usually do the trick. If you can count on an extra second, an extra 2 seconds because you have Taysom Hill in there instead of Trevor Siemian, you should be able to create a little bit of separation that you might not have been able to on your initial break and your initial route. The question is, do they have that kind of comfortability? Are they on the same page? And that's where you want to see Taysom be very on point with some of these, read plays, right? When you're talking about zone versus man, you want to see a guy sit down versus zone. You want to see him keep going versus man. And you want to make sure that the receiver and the quarterback are making the same read. Otherwise, you have an interception or you have just a missed opportunity, like we saw in the preseason when he targeted Ty Montgomery on a zone man kind of option route. Ty sat down late. Taysom delivered it as if he was going to keep going and went for an interception. That's what you can't have today. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think early on, you really want to watch Taysom's feet. You really want to make sure that he's stepping into throws. He's not favoring one foot over the other. He needs to maintain his form, his mechanics, despite the pain that he's going to have, and you're going to go from there. But okay, still waiting on Deuce. So let's go to a couple questions, comments. Jerry with the burning question: can the Saints finally win a game and stop this losing streak? I think so. It's so tough. I mean, let's just say this: if they don't score points, they're not going to win any games. You got to find a way to manufacture points. Brett Maher, revenge game, maybe. I mean, we haven't seen him kick the last 2 weeks. The Saints scored 1 touchdown, went for a 2-point conversion against the Bills. So he did nothing but kick off against the Bills. He missed an extra point against the Eagles, which, I mean, you're pretty much up to a touchdown so far this year based on just missed extra points. So even if you're kicking field goals, putting points on the board is important. Do they trust Brett Maher outside of 40? Do they trust Brett Maher outside of 50? Finding ways to put up points in 3s and 1s will be a factor. Last time the Saints and Cowboys played, Saints won 12-10. That's the type of game the Saints need to be able to win with the offense in shambles. Make sure you're not pinning your defense in a bad situation, and they can win this game. Will they? That's another question. Again, I don't know if Taysom's foot is going to allow him to generate the time behind the line of scrimmage that he needs, that the Saints need to get through this matchup. I just don't know. But we will find out. And, it's tough. It's a situation where you're 5-6. It feels like you're worse than that, but it's because of how well you started the season. And keep in mind, the Saints weren't that much better off earlier in the season when they were winning these games. They had Jameis Winston, but there were games without most of the offensive line. There were games without, Michael Thomas. That hasn't changed. It feels worse now because you don't have the benefit of him coming back. Same with Will Lutz, but the situation hasn't. The fact that the offense has had to make it work with these other players hasn't changed. The only real thing that you're missing that you weren't early on is Alvin Kamara. And that is a big factor. Let's be real. But I do think Mark Ingram can do enough that you can win a game the way that they did earlier this season. But you have to be able to score at least a few points. You have to be able to extend at least a few drives. Or you can't rely on your defense to score all the points. I mean, think back to the Seattle game. You're going against Geno Smith. You know your defense is going to be able to hold up. You just have to score enough, right? They scored 13. That was enough. It won't be enough in a lot of games, but it was enough in that game. If the Saints offense played the way it did on Thanksgiving up in Seattle, the Saints would have lost that game. They would have. I mean, even if you just look at the points, but I mean, just the fact they could not even remotely extend a drive at home, it's just, you can't win that way. You can't win that way. And hopefully you have a quarterback who feels comfortable running the ball. Hopefully they can plow for some tough yards. I think this is going to be a marking room between the tackles game. And you just have to be dedicated to it. You can't give up on it if it doesn't work the first few drives. You have to make them respect that you're going to run the ball up the middle. And that can be with the quarterback. I just think you need to be careful how much work you put on Taysom Hill in this situation with like he said, the big question mark being how will that foot hold up? The more you put pressure on it, the more you rely on it, the more likely you're going to have some flare-ups. And again, it's more about pain than effectiveness, if that's the right word. But at a certain point, the pain limits your effectiveness. At a certain point, it hurts too much, and you're not focused on the play. You're focused on, dang it, my foot hurts. And if you see some kind of bizarre throws, some weird moments that seem inexplicable throughout the game, there's probably a decent chance that his foot really hurts, and he's not thinking about the play. He's thinking about how much his foot hurts. So that's what I'll say is, it can change drastically based on what you have, but it can also change in a good way, because as we saw earlier in the season, this offense was able to figure out a few of the games. They played well in New England. They played well against the Packers, obviously. They played well enough in Seattle. They played reasonably well in Washington against a very tough defense. I think they can get it done, but it's going to come down to Taysom Hill and how effective he can be. All right. Got a few comments. Yeah, we kind of went into this. So one of the things I said earlier today, and one of the things I think strongly about is the Saints need to be more aggressive with jump ball type throws on the perimeters of the field. And I'm not talking about Hail Mary throws. I'm talking about back shoulder high balls that are targeting big receivers. I want to see Lil Jordan Humphrey in a plus split, going down in a fade, breaking it off, and going up and high pointing a ball. I watched Taysom Hill and Lil Jordan Humphrey do that very effectively all throughout camp. And if you throw the right ball, there's no defense for it. The issue with Lil Jordan to this point has been his hands, his mechanics on his catches, and I think that's part of what has dropped him out of the rotation. But I do believe that he had a better connection in camp with Taysom Hill than he did with Trevor Siemian or Jameis Winston. Some receivers, some quarterbacks flow better together, and I think that was the case here. So I think he is a guy who I would look to. Taysom has thrown 2 touchdowns to him already. Well, actually, no. I think that was preseason. They're both in the preseason. He caught a touchdown from Trevor Siemian 2 weeks ago against the Eagles. He caught a late touchdown in that game. It was garbage time. But you see what he can do. You see the big body, the impact that can have. And when you're not creating separation, the next step is to go to contested catches, right? You can't always create separation, but if you can make contested catches, the separation doesn't necessarily matter. And it's easier to make a contested catch when you have a body that you can use to put in front of someone and box them out. And I think if you focus on that, if you make them defend you on the edges, you make a big body go after Lil Jordan, I think you have a chance. I think you have a chance to create some offense where you didn't under Trevor Siemian, because Trevor's ball, he throws the ball he throws a really pretty ball. It's a spiral. I think it's very catchable, but it just doesn't get there on time enough of the time. It just seems to spend an extra half second, 1/10 of a second, whatever it is, in the air. And that's enough for the defender to react, get his hand in, make that contested catch an impossible catch, shoot the pocket, whatever you want to call it. That's an issue that they were never able to figure out. If you go back and watch that 2-point conversion play where Trevor throws to Mark Ingram in the end zone and Jackrabbit comes over and breaks it up, that's the type of play that you look at and you're like, man, he was open. The ball never had a chance because it didn't get there fast enough. And that's when you talk about arm strength. And Trevor Siemian's arm is fine, but he just doesn't rifle the ball in the way you need to when your guys aren't creating separation. If you had a guy wide open, he could hit him all day long. He throws a perfect ball. It's on target. Not enough pace. And I think that's where Taysom can create some opportunities in situations that Trevor struggled in, which is, you're not making a ton of complicated reads. You see a guy with a step, you see a guy breaking on a slant, and he is inside position, throw the ball, rifle it, at least let the receiver have a chance. And that's what I didn't see. I mean, you haven't seen a ton of just straight up drops, right? I don't think you've seen that. I think you'll see it more with Taysom because it feels like it's coming out of a rocket. But most of the drops, quote unquote drops, have been contested catches where the receivers just had a hand in between their hands and they couldn't make the catch. And that is partially on them, but it's also on the quarterback, I think, and how they deliver the ball. So I think that is where I'd like to see Taysom improve from what Trevor was doing. And if they can do that, if they can reliably move the ball, in between the 20s, Taysom is one of the more dominant red zone football players you'll find, because when it gets compressed in there, the Saints basically just have a running back that they can throw an extra blocker in. And that's a huge advantage when you need to go 10 yards and there's only 20 yards to work with. So if they can move the ball and get it into the red zone, I think you're going to have a much easier time converting in those situations. And because that's what the Saints were doing early in the season. They weren't getting into the red zone a ton, but when they got there, they scored on 12 of their first 13 attempts. They scored a touchdown on 12 of their first 13 attempts. And if they can do that, if they can get into the red zone and be efficient when they're there, they can win this game. Can they convert a 2-point conversion? That's a whole another question. They've missed on their last 10, I think, maybe 11. How many did they go for against the Bills? Only one. So yeah, they've missed on the last 10 2-point conversions dating back to 2018. I don't think that'll continue with Taysom. I think he is a dominant 2-point conversion player, and that's what makes the Saints' lack of success on 2-point conversion so complicated and so difficult to explain, because they have, in the past few years, have had these weapons, and they just haven't used them, and they've failed so many times. But we'll see what happens. Chance Black, we didn't have a chance with no QB or receivers. Yeah, but the receivers haven't changed. These are the guys that were there at the beginning of the season. They're the guys that are there now. The receiver group has actually been, outside of Michael Thomas, the healthiest group on the team. Once Tre'Quan Smith got back, Deontay Harris had a hamstring issue that kept him out for a game. He might get suspended, or he did get suspended. It looks like he's going to play tonight. He's appealing that, but he will have to serve a suspension at some point, assuming it doesn't get overturned, which they rarely do. I mean, that's the receiver group they've been working with all year. So that hasn't changed. This team went 5-2 with these receivers. The difference has been the quarterback play and the injuries and the offensive line and not having Kamara. I think with better quarterback play, and that's not to say Trevor Siemian was bad. He's just not the type of quarterback who's going to make up for that deficit. He doesn't do enough, with his legs. He doesn't do enough in short yardage situations to get you over the hump, I think. And that's just, we know who Trevor Siemian is. He did as well as you could have hoped in those first two games. He played average to bad in the next two games. They're all 4 losses. They could have easily won that game against the Falcons. I'd argue they should have. It took one really bad play by Paulson Adebo, who, in my opinion, misplayed that horribly. Maybe he was put in a bad situation. I don't know, but that's what it took for the Saints to lose that game, despite being down 24-8. If he wins that game, maybe this is a different conversation, but it's about the quarterback play. It's about the efficiency of the offense, getting it done, and we'll just have to see whether that's enough. But I don't think that losing, not having receivers is any more of a challenge at 5-6 than it was at 5-2. I think it's about the guy getting the receivers the ball and the guys blocking for the guy who's supposed to get the receivers the ball. And we'll have to see how that changes. Oops, sorry about that. All right. I'm not sure. I think it's because this is going through StreamYard and not YouTube. You don't have the super chat. I can look into it, but I appreciate you being here, Randall. I know you're here earlier today for the other preview. So appreciate seeing you around. Deborah Palmisano got a who dat. This isn't a name, but we got Salute Dat. That's a different one. Okay. Hill's legs is our chance. I did notice that your name is Chance Black, and you've used the word chance in both of your comments, and I appreciate the consistency. We have not had that consistency because I haven't heard from Deuce yet, and it seems like we may have gotten our wires crossed. Let me double check here, and we'll have to see if he pops in. It's always busy on game days, so we might have to go without it this week, but we'll give him a couple more minutes. I'll vamp around and see if maybe he pops in. Otherwise, we'll have to just imagine for ourselves what he might have said, and then go listen to him on the broadcast alongside Mike Haas, WWL AM 870 FM 1053. Again, this is the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success pregame live chat. Bud Light with the ingredients proudly displayed on the label. That's hops, barley, water, and rice. The Saints ingredients are a bit more complicated, but as Chance very astutely points out, Hill's legs are our chance. I think, again, I talked about the injury ad nauseum, plantar fascia. If you've ever had it, it hurts. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Taysom Hill has to run for the Saints to win this game. But I think he has to be able to run. I think the threat has to be there. And I think if I'm the Cowboys, I'm not playing him to run early in the game. Because A, I want to see if he can do it. And B, I want to force him to do it to prove that he can. Because, it's like a boxer kind of repeatedly just hitting you in the liver. It hurts. It's not going to end the fight, but if it hurts enough, it can help you end the fight in other ways. And if they force him to do that and it is not working and it's too painful and it limits him throughout the rest of the game, then that's a win, even if he runs for 50 yards in the first quarter. And if I'm the Cowboys, if I'm Dan Quinn, we haven't even mentioned this. If I'm Dan Quinn, who is the head coach for the Cowboys today, because Mike McCarthy's out with COVID, if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm saying, Taysom, how's that foot? You going to run? Go for it. And, if he does it 2-3 times and shows no signs of issue, then, maybe you change up that game plan. But why? Why would you come off the receivers? Why would you play heavy until he proves he can do that? So I think, even if he is going to be at his most productive in the pocket, making the Cowboys respect his ability to run is going to be very important. Even if it does just hurt, if it's excruciating, he can't show it. I think that's the important thing. If he wants to stay in the game, if he wants to have a good game, he's not allowed to show any visible signs of pain. Otherwise, the Cowboys are going to take advantage of it. They're going to see it. They're going to go after him. And to me, that's an important factor. You don't want to see him slowly getting up. You don't want to see that. You want to see him pop up and just demoralize the defense going into a game with that game plan, with that in mind, because they're going to. So, yeah. If Taysom's a good actor, it could be almost as important as Taysom being a good runner. But anyway, let's move on. Jerry's got a prediction. He's not being very specific, but it's at least a positive prediction. So I think most Saints fans would be happy with some positivity at the end of this one. 4 straight losses. I grew up a Giants fan, just saying. Over the last 5-6 years, being a Giants fan, 4 straight losses is like, what is it, week 5? Every year is a 4-game losing streak. For the Saints, it's so rare these last 6-7 years. We had those 7-9 seasons, and that's as bad as it got in the kind of the latter decade of the Drew Brees era. And that's why it feels weird right now. It feels like the Saints are never going to win another game. And it feels a lot like it has, including this year, watching the Giants. Because when you don't know that's your quarterback, when you're unsure every week going in, is this the guy? Is that the guy at quarterback? Is that the answer? Are we going to have to go draft a guy in the first round? Did we just overpay for a gadget player? That's a very Giants-like mentality. I don't know why I'm hammering on the Giants. It's just my point of reference, but that's what it feels like. And it's a disappointing place to be for a franchise. But if that's the worst that you get, if you're 5-6 with a chance at the postseason and you just have to figure out a way to get it done with Taysom Hill and whoever, could be worse. Could be the Giants. And I say this full well knowing the Giants walked into the Superdome and won a game this year. I mean, I've watched enough Giants football to know that this way the Saints are playing right now feels very similar to, just the offense that the New York Football Giants have run out there. And I don't expect it to stay that way because good coaching typically wins out. Like you saw, look at the Patriots last year. Last year they struggled. They didn't have the future quarterback. Cam Newton played fine, but they didn't have enough to win a majority of their games. They missed the playoffs. And now look at them this year. 8-4, first in the AFC East. They got their quarterback. The question is done. They know who it is, and it's a better team for it. And I think it's a process, and I think this is the moment where you find out, hey, is this the guy we're going to go with, or is it not? And it's a perfect time to do that because if it works, great, fantastic. If it doesn't, and you lose the next 6 games, got a good draft pick, and you have an answer to the question. Is Taysom Hill a guy we're going to seriously consider as a starting quarterback for the future? So, it could be worse, right? I think as badly as this season has gone and as difficult as it has been for the Saints to overcome a lot of these injuries and try to figure out how the post-Drew Brees era is going to go, I think there have been positives. And I think if you end this season knowing that you're going to draft a quarterback, if you get, at the top of the first round or whatever, there are worse ways to end the season. Anyway, I think Jerry's right. I think the Saints win tonight. I've watched too many Saints losses to think that this team isn't just going to get pissed off and show up and pitch a shutout one of these times. Yeah, I don't know about that. I haven't seen Taysom throw particularly accurately on the run. If I honestly would like to see him, if he's going to get outside the pocket, just tuck it and run. We've talked about, and I say that more in like scramble situations. If there are situations where he kind of naturally extends the play, that's fine. If he's running around for his life, I just want to see him tuck the ball and go. Because what I don't want to see is him hold the ball too long and then get tracked down from behind when somebody didn't realize, and then you have a sack fumble instead of just, a 4-yard gain. And understanding when to do that is important. And I don't want to see a guy trying to turn himself into something he's not and turn the ball over because of it. All right, let's see. A few others. Charlie Mai is betting over 46 points. To me, that's a confident Saints bet. Because if we see a similar team that we saw a week ago, that means the Cowboys would have to score about 40. And I don't see that happening. Under the worst of circumstances, I don't see that happening. So this is a bet that if you think the Saints are going to come out and put up 21, 25, whatever, even if they don't win, that's still a solid offensive production, then that's a good bet. If you don't, if you think this offense is going to struggle, if you think you're going to see another 6-point, 10-point game, then that's a questionable bet. Stop. No. I'm not even going to go down this road. Why? I mean, there's no. And the question you're going to have in the offseason is whether Jameis Winston did enough to merit you bringing him back and paying him reasonable money, because I think he did enough to get reasonable money from other franchises. I think he's going to get a decent contract. And it's going to be a question of whether the Saints feel like they can put up that money confidently. But I don't think you're going to see the journeyman thing again. I think either you sign one of those, you sign him, or you draft a guy. I could see them trying to trade for, an entrenched guy, but no. Okay, Charlie, one last question, and then I'll get out of your hair. Saints will score. Cowboys defense gives up big plays. Okay, but the Saints haven't generated any big plays, so you have to at least get to them to do it, to make it hurt. And also, keep in mind, Trayvon Diggs is a ball hawk. Sometimes they'll give up big plays, but sometimes he's baiting you into that play so he can go intercept the ball. He's that type of corner. And you have to be really careful when you're targeting him. I think part of the reason I have some confidence in little Jordan Humphrey is Trayvon Diggs is probably going to follow Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith around. I think not going after Trayvon Diggs, avoiding Trayvon Diggs is probably a good way to improve your odds of winning this game, because that dude is always on the prowl and you don't want to deal with that. It's not a great defense, but they do have a good pass rush and they do have opportunistic cornerbacks. And if that sounds familiar, it's literally the recipe the Saints used in 2009 to win the Super Bowl. So keep that in mind. You don't always have to lock people down. If you turn the ball over, I would rather have a defense allowing 25 points a game than a defense allowing 17 points a game and not turning the ball over. Allowing 25 points and generating 1.5 turnovers a game than a defense allowing 17 points and generating, 1 turnover a game. Because those games where you get 2 is a game changer. Those games where you score on defense, that's a game changer. Those games where you score on special teams, that's a game changer. And testing Trayvon Diggs one too many times and throwing a pivotal interception is a way I could see the Saints losing this game. But all right, y'all. Again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer. This has been the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success pregame live chat. We couldn't connect with Deuce McAllister today. Hopefully, when we get back to the normal Sunday schedule, we'll be able to get him in here next week, and we'll go from there. I apologize. We weren't able to get him. Sometimes it happens. But, hey, you heard a lot from me. You heard a lot about Taysom Hill. You heard a lot about plantar fascia and how much that hurts. And we'll see what happens. The Saints and Cowboys kick off at 7:20 p.m. over on Fox. It's also going to be on NFL Network and Prime Video if you're a Prime subscriber. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We got about an hour and a half till kickoff. Make sure you check out WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 for the game. You have Mike Haas and I promise Deuce McAllister on the call. Before then, if you're looking for something, go over WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 again. You have Bobby Abiar, Christian Garrick, and Mike Tillier bringing you up to kickoff on the pregame show. Check it out. And, check out all the latest headlines at odyssey.com/WWL. Check us out on Twitter at WWL AMFM. Subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Channels below. And we will see how it goes. Again, this is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success live chat. Bud Light has its ingredients proudly printed on the label. It's hops, barley, water, and rice. The Saints' ingredients to victory will be a bit more complicated, but it starts with a 7. All right, y'all. Who dat?